Good morning. It's a real pleasure to welcome all of you here this morning. Uh, we've had some confusion. None of you are with the Pent Lala group, right? Great, you're in the right place then. Don't worry about don't worry about a thing. At this time, I'm going to ask Tracy Thomas, who is the director of the library, to come in and welcome you all and dance, sing, or whatever else you would like to do, Tracy. But it's early in the morning for that. Tracy Thomas, please.
Thank y'all so much for coming this morning. I'm Tracy Thomas, the director here at the library. And you know, the Marble Festival is one of our most favorite times of the year. And the library enjoys so much getting to do the organizational support for this festival. And I have to say, you're very aware, you know, you've seen him out at the sculpting site, but you know that Dr. Ted Spears has been such a driving force behind this festival. And he works all year long to maintain these relationships with the quarries and with the sculptors. And so it's an all year project. It's not just a 2 week thing. So thank you, Dr. Ted, for all that you do. And he does a great job. And I will say too, it is a joy to work in a place like the Comer Library where you get to have so many different elements like beautiful artwork and beautiful sculptures and books. Dr. Shirley Spears was our director for 33 years, and she always said, I don't think the library should just be about books. I think we have a beautiful building, we have access to resources, and a visit to the library should be a cultural arts experience all the way around. And I think that under her leadership and her guidance all these years, we've been able to accomplish that. So we're very proud of the sculpture that we have in the building, the artwork that we have in the building, and of course the books as well. So, and she just came in, so we just got through talking about you, Dr. Spears. So there she is. But again, thank you all so much, especially to the sculptors for dedicating this time to come and spend this time in Sylacauga. If you're a visitor here, thank you for choosing to spend your day here in Sylacauga. We hope that you'll enjoy it. And again, Dr. Ted, thank you for everything.
Be sure and turn off your cell phone before you get started. This may be the group that I want. We're going to have another group of people. These people that are from the Pentalala Baptist Church, and somehow or another they didn't we, meet our timing schedule, or we got confused, or they got confused, or the traffic was bad, or it rained, or it thundered, or the dog ate my homework. I don't know which it was. So we'll wait and let them get seated, and then we'll be glad to get started. Uh, One of the two things, let me say, we've had more foot traffic this year and any of that we've had in any of the last 14 years. You know, we started out 14 years ago, and we think it's better and bigger. And but we know one thing, that people are finding out about us, and we've got uh, a unique group that is working with us. So we think that that is going to be one of the interesting things that we build on, is that we are now reaching a different kind of sculpture. You see some of these people, if they're not Baptists or you haven't seen them in Sylacauga, they're sculptors. So they heard about Frank, and they will be in doing that. So while we're trading water, it we would love feedback from you. I know that we talked to the Kiwanis Club and a Rotary Club and maybe the Lions Club group. And so it's an interesting sort of thing that we have when uh, we get all those groups together. And so we'll be doing that. So if you'll just hold on for just a 3 or 4 minutes, we'll get the program started. The Penn group was going to see a film first off, and then they may be weary from their trip because since they showed up late, we'll take just a minute or two, and then we'll go ahead and get started. The thing about it, I don't know how many Baptists we have in the room. Usually, we could say you could go ahead and start dancing, but I don't know. I don't know that would be good. But what do you think, Elaine? You think we could still do that? So hang on just a few more seconds, and we'll have the program started. Now we're back to square one. When we first started with the Marble Festival, we had a young man, Frank Murphy, came over. I had heard of Frank. I had not met him, but he started, he's important in the visual world, all sorts of beautiful paintings. He does churches. He had done individual portraits. He had done religious themes. He had done a lot of things, but he came over and started in a strong way to do something that he did in his childhood, but he'll tell you about that. But Frank is a graduate of Montevallo and then the Baptist Seminary at Louisville. He's also an ordained minister. Most of you people know that. And he's been the chaplain at Berry College and one other institution there in Rome, Georgia, for a number of years. But now he's dedicating himself to becoming a serious sculptor. I'm not saying he wasn't serious all along, but when you hadn't got another job, you're a serious sculptor, Frank. So just hang in there. The thing that amazes me, and I don't know about you all, but don't you just hate people who can do 2 or 3 things beautifully? Frank, he can sing. He's a great painter. He's a great sculptor, just a great individual. So, Frank, you just come on. I'm not going to reveal any other secrets and let everybody know what you're doing. He has a PowerPoint. Later on, we'll entertain questions if you have any questions. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Frank Murphy, a hometown boy made good.
That's good. That's good. Good morning. Good to see you here. How many people are from Sylacauga? There's a pretty good crew here who's part of Sylacauga. Where are some of the other people from? Just give me a ballpark thing. Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Mobile. That's a long way. Florida? Oh, Florida. Yes, of course. Well, good. Good to have you here with us today, and hope you enjoy this time together. And I promise to be out by 2 o'clock. So, I've got a $10 gift certificate I can give to somebody, but I was not the original. I'm the replacement for this talk today, and so what the original title was really didn't fit what I had an experience in. So I'm just going to talk about being an artist. We got some of our artists here. That's always intimidating to have other artists in the room, but glad to have you with us as well. Are you an artist? Anybody here? Do you want to be an artist? My college roommate, who is a potter in Gatlinburg, sent me this ad a few years ago from an old magazine. Be an artist. You'll get fame, wealth, beautiful lovers, a brief respite from your terror of dying. And then there's at the bottom, yes, I'd like to alter the course of cultural history. So if you want to do that, there is a post office box in Hohokus, New Jersey that you can be an artist. That is one point of view, maybe not a very high point of view of a calling to be an artist. You know, most artists do have a pretty good standing in the general public, I think because the public generally sees them as having more gifts or talents or talents that are beyond the ordinary. So they're very appreciative of artists in that way. Artists are thought to be more talented, more creative, and perhaps a little quirky as well. Tim Keller, who is a pastor in New York, said in an essay, the essay is titled "Why We Need Artists." He tells a story of a group of people who go backstage following a great dancer's performance, and they approach the dancer and ask her, "What did it mean?" And she responded, "If I could have said it, I wouldn't have had to dance it." Art, in some instances, or in a sense, has to be indefinable. It's what we do when words are incomplete or insufficient. Keller, he writes, he says, he sees art as the extension of how we try to praise God, to express the indefinable glory. Without art, Keller writes, it's almost impossible to praise God because we have no means by which to get the praise out. In another sense, art is the means of getting out the meaning of life. Other animals do not do art. They don't express their lives in terms of meaning and purpose, but we humans do, and we do it best when we express it through the forms of art. Poetry, literature, dance, music, the visual arts. Humans have a need to help others see what they see and know. We want to express that to others. Rembrandt might have written a book or essay to describe the evolution of his life from a young man to an old man, but he has chosen through images of himself to tell us about who he was and who he is. And we see those expressions in his eyes in various stages of his life, the highs and lows, the successes and the failures, the confidence, and then also the pain. And there's so much more we could see in these paintings to describe who he is. A picture does paint. Well, that's my dance picture, isn't it? I'm on the wrong picture, sorry. Now we'll go back to that. A picture does paint 1,000 words, but the words need not be spoken in response to the image. The images themselves speak much more than we can say in words. Art is said to be creative, and artists are creative. It's a word often associated with what we do, but according to Leonardo da Vinci, it's the wrong word. Creative is the wrong word. He wrote, "Man does not create, only God creates. Man regenerates." Leonardo, though not a theologian, spoke to the truth of what artists do. He says, only God can take nothing and create something. What mankind does is take the things that we have seen and held and heard and experienced and remake them into a form that we can understand and that expresses something about what we have discovered in a new way. We gather together the materials and the truths and the beauty we know and regenerate those things to speak to a new age and to a new time. Our tastes may vary in what we speak or what we like. Perhaps you prefer the realism of a Bernini sculpture, or maybe you're more interested in Henry Moore's abstract sculpture, all this in marble. Or perhaps you're interested in abstract paintings like Pollock and Picasso. Or maybe you prefer the Impressionism of Camille Pissarro or more realism of Camille Corot in these two pictures. But the best art seeks to express beauty or truth or the gamut of emotions that we experience. Sometimes it's in the form itself, other times it's in the mystery of what it says, but art brings us to the table to be enlightened and to enlighten others. I don't know if I woke up one day as a child and said, I'm going to be an artist. What I did realize early is that I I had a gift to see the way we understand or the way we see the world, and I could put it down in a form that had a certain accuracy about what we see in the world. In other words, I could draw what we see. Other kids my age and teachers affirmed me and said, draw me this, draw me that. I always drew eagles and cowboys and horses. And I admit there's something heady about being given this kind of attention and this affirmation. It's hard not to feel good about yourself if everybody around you is telling you these things or recognizes your unique gift. In the movie Stand By Me, the four boys are on their way to see a dead body. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And they get slightly separated. Vern and Teddy, the two more immature of the boys, kind of get straggling behind Chris and Gordy, and what they're talking about is shown in the movie. Vern and Teddy are talking about who's more powerful, Superman or Mighty Mouse. Chris and Gordy are talking about their fears of going into junior high school. Chris is telling Gordy how smart Gordy is, and he is embarrassed by it. And he says, and Chris is telling Gordy, you could be such a great writer because you tell such great stories. But Gordy tries to say it's not important, even says it's stupid. He's embarrassed to be so smart. But finally, Chris just looks sternly at him and says, you are crazy. It's like God came down and gave you this special gift and says, here it is, buddy. This is what I've got for you. Don't mess it up. I think that's the responsibility that we all have about what we've been given in our life, to be what we can be and to express things in the way that we can, to share with fellow humanity. For artists, it's recognizing those kind of special gifts that we have to see the world in unique ways and finding the avenues to express it. One summer when I was about 9 years old, a bunch of college students, they used to do this a lot back then, came through Sylacauga, and they were selling big family Bibles, big Bibles. You may have bought one. My mom and dad bought one of these big coffee table Bibles. In the Bible, there was a treasure chest of old paintings, of religious paintings of various kinds. There was the traditional Karl Bloch paintings that were very accurately descriptive kind of paintings, if you may have seen them or not. But somewhere in the middle of that book, in the Old Testament section, there was a painting by Rembrandt. I'd heard of Rembrandt. I didn't know what he did, but I knew he was an artist, so I'd heard of him. And in this painting is a painting called Jeremiah Weeping Over the Destruction of Jerusalem. I couldn't take my eyes off this painting. I would sit and stare at the weary and worn prophet and wonder. I wondered first at the sheer artistic ability of Rembrandt to paint this man in this scene. Then I wondered at the way he painted the cloth and the little container, the little bowl that he has there, and the jewels that are a part of it. I wondered at that. And then I wondered at last and pondered what was going on in Jeremiah's head. I've never gotten over that picture. In fact, I have it. It stands over my mantle in my house today. I'd never seen such an expression so fully and abundantly made clear that Rembrandt did in this particular one. It defies words. Words would be so impractical and insufficient to describe what I see there. That's when I knew I wanted to paint. And even now, I've seen paintings by Michelangelo, by Titian, Picasso, Van Gogh, Norman Rockwell, all these painters. And when I see their work, it inspires me to go out and paint. I want to paint. Then I go see Rembrandt, so I think, I quit. I give up. I can't do it. He's that good. But in spite of my inadequacy in front of Rembrandt, I wanted to be a painter if I couldn't be a baseball pitcher. That's what I really wanted to do. Larry back there will know that's what I really wanted to do. But these were things that I had been exposed to in childhood, and so I drew constantly on a notebook. These are some of the oldest drawings I have. Some of y'all saw these when I was here a couple of years ago, on notebook paper in school in class, or mimeograph sheets that the teacher handed out that had a test or something that I was supposed to have known on the other side. But I drew what I knew. I knew I liked sports, and so I did that. And I drew baseball players, and I drew football players, and I drew basketball players. I don't know how well you can see all of those, but I drew those things. And so I became very confident at drawing the human figure because I did it all the time, and I drew these things constantly because that's what I knew best. I had a few opportunities to be exposed to sculpture growing up in Sylacauga. Some of you have heard this story. I had always wondered why there were no sculptures around Sylacauga. That I grew up in, there really was, other than the cemetery, there really wasn't any marble sculpture anywhere around the town. One day my dad had gone out to the quarry and just picked up some small pieces of marble that were lying on the side of the road. Some of you know about that and probably done it too. And brought them home, and there was one piece, and I got it, and I got a claw hammer, and I got a wood chisel, and I started hammering away on that piece of marble. And it was a light piece. It was too light really for me. I needed some way to hold it down because every time I hit it, I was chasing it around. And finally, I just gave up on the wood chisel and just started beating it with the hammer until I finally got something I thought looked, okay, I see something in there finally. And so I pulled it up, and this is what it looked like. This is the actual piece right here. And so I took it, and I got some oil paint from one of those paint by number kits that you had back in the day, and painted one side, and I gave it to my dad for Christmas. And so everybody wanted to have a picture of Abraham Lincoln in marble. And so I knew that's what he wanted for Christmas that year, and that's what I gave him. So I still have it because they kept it. They must have thought it was worth something to them, but I had done that piece. That's my first marble piece right there. Now I have it at my house. I started off as an art major in college at the University of Montevallo, but I really struggled. I struggled in the classes because I never had an art class. We didn't have any art classes at the high school at the time. I didn't understand what they wanted me to do, and I didn't understand the terminology, and I was too afraid to ask because everybody else seemed like they knew what was going on. And I didn't understand what they wanted me to do, and I didn't understand anything that they were saying. Besides that, art majors are weird, and I was simply out of my element. And so I decided to change degrees to something that I knew, physical education. I promised myself that I would get back to painting one day, that I would do that, and I have to admit that I have never been able to escape that promise. But nothing I did I thought was very good. In my first job after college, I was a minister of recreation in a church, and I hired a retired professor of art to come and teach painting classes to a group of adults in the church who wanted to learn. And I decided to take the course as well. And I learned through that professor that there was much more that went into the making of a painting than just grabbing a canvas and brushes and paints. Along with the lessons that he taught me in that class, I was given a book by a member of the church, by Norman Rockwell, describing how he painted one of his Saturday Evening Post covers. He went into elaborate detail about the way, the process, and how and what he did. And I realized I hadn't done any of those things. I hadn't put any time or thought or effort or work into anything I was doing. So I decided I was going to try to paint one using the kind of work ethic that Rockwell used in his painting, and it transformed my work. This painting I did, no, that's Rockwell. He did that. I didn't do that. Rockwell did that. That's the book that I had. This is the painting I did before. This is what I did just 4 years later. A lot of difference in the level of competence there. It was in me all the time to do this because you saw the drawings. I could do them even as a youth, but I had not done the work. It's about work. Being an artist requires work and diligence and commitment. And it's about excellence. It's not about just whipping things out. It's not the idea of, can I sell it or is it marketable? It's about having something to say, whether that meaning or that message is about beauty or truth or the human condition or our relationship with the Almighty. It's those things that bring our art up to the level that it needs to be. Most of my adult life, I have been balancing my ministry with being an artist. And some of my best work began after I came to First Baptist Church in Rome. This was the first large piece I did that's about 9 foot wide. And then I did this Last Supper piece that I think First Baptist has maybe a print of this there. And then there's some detail of it. And it's another large piece. And this one of Abraham Lincoln is here in Sylacauga. It's at the library, not the library, it's the museum. You got to walk up the stairs upstairs and then come back down. When you come back down the stairs, you'll see it right there of Abraham Lincoln. Better than this one of Abraham Lincoln, at least. So, and so these are some of the pictures that I did. This one is at First Baptist in Rome that I did when I left there. I took a job as a campus minister at a junior college, Georgia Highlands College, before I went to Berry College and did both of those campuses. But because I took the job because I was offered the opportunity to work as a painter as well as a minister. It was considered part-time, so I was able to do both my artwork and to do the ministry as well as I needed to do that. It gave me a great opportunity to work through some things. So I'm going to just show a few of these. It's a prodigal son painting that I did, and you can see the Rembrandt kind of influence on this. And then if you know his prodigal son painting, you'll know that there's some similarities. These are several pieces. Oh, okay, that's where I stopped. Okay. No, I'm going to go through this. This was done. This is a painting that I did for the Georgia Baptist Convention in Atlanta. That's me standing on that scaffolding there. That painting is 44 foot long by 28 foot wide, and there's like 70 people's faces from various countries from where they are located in the painting. That's where they're from, basically. So that took me a little over a year to do that, and I had one other. This was the small. This was another ceiling in the same building. It was a 21-foot circle. It was the separation of dark and light, and God pushing back the darkness. You got to twist your head around. I probably should turn one the other way so that you could see it upside down. But there's different images from whichever way you're standing in front of it. I thought, well, it's a circle, so there's no place it's the top or the bottom because you're looking up, so you should be able to see something regardless of the point of view that you're at. So that's kind of what is going on here in that particular painting. And then that's the finished one after I'd finished the whatever I was working on in that last part. And these are some of just the individual figures that were in that painting in various places in China and Africa and India and Pakistan, I believe. And then I had to do 6 wall paintings as well in the room, and this is one of the 6. It was based on the verse, "You shall be witness unto me both in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the uttermost part of the world." And this was considered the uttermost part because you can see Africa with the Egyptians, and some of the places, Paris, the cross there, that's from Brazil, and of course the Taj Mahal and the Sydney Opera House and part of the Wall of China. And then this is Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe and Namibia, I think. I forget which part, but that's so places that would be considered far away for all of us, but that's one of them I did. Okay, yeah. I first got started seriously in sculpture in the early 1990s when I walked into an art store in Birmingham, and I was going to buy paints, and I saw a set of 5 stone carving tools with a little small hammer. I still have the hammer with my stuff. And I thought, man, I'm buying this right now. I think it was about $45. I'm buying this because I know where I can get the marble. I mean, I'd worked at the quarry when I was a teenager one time, so I knew that there was marble to be got. And so I didn't know what the tools did or how they were supposed to be used, but I went to Berry College, found a book on stone carving, and it described each tool and what it was supposed to be used for. And I started working on that. The piece on the left is the first piece that I ever did. The old man, that's the 4th nose, because I broke 3 noses off before I got that one to stay. Trial and error is a good way to learn, and I learned a lot. You know, you can't hit straight into the nose if you think you want it to stay on. So these kind of things you learn as you do it. And so I did that. And then this was the second piece on the right that I did. I feel like it was a step up for that. And I did 4 or 5 other stone pieces as well as some bronze in the next 10 to 15 years until I came to 2011 when I heard about the Marble Festival. One of my good friends in high school told me about it. My mom failed to tell me about it. Don't know why she didn't want me to know, but she did. But Doug Pope told me about it, and I came here, and the festival has been a real treasure for me. It's not a competition. It's more of an exhibition of what can be done with marble, this great natural resource that we have here in Sylacauga. It's also an educational festival because we learn from one another. All of these artists back here, we learn from one another, and we share kind of the ideas that we're trying to do and how we're trying to do them, and we work with new tools and things that we haven't used before, and we learn new methods to work in the marble, and all these things helps us as artists to approach the stone in a new way, and it's something that we know that this is an educational thing, and I hope that when folks come through here, it's also an educational thing as you learn more about this great natural resource that's here, and people always are expressing their amazement at what's here, and they never knew it was here, but it is. And so this has been a great festival to be a part of. I'm just going to show a few other slides of things that I've done. These are a couple of bronzes, one at Shorter University in Rome, and the other is of Laocoon on the right. It's an ancient Greek sculpture, and it's kind of my version. It's kind of a short version of the big one that they have at the Vatican. This is a modern telling of Jesus at the house of St. Matthew. So it's called Party at Matthew's. So they're all getting together there. This painting I did for the First Baptist Church of Dalton, Georgia. I actually did 8 paintings for them on a series that they had. This was in the main foyer as you entered the sanctuaries of the Supper of Emmaus, where Jesus reveals who he is to 2 disciples. And they told me before I did the painting that table was going to go there, and it was going to be right in front of it. So I just painted my table to match that table. And the thing I didn't anticipate that happened was the reflection of like the bowl of fruit in the front of the table is reflected on the actual table. So it's almost like it just kind of enters into the painting that way. So that was kind of neat to be able to do that and to have that. I do a few little landscapes, and this is not a little one. This is like 9 foot long of the Monument Valley in Arizona and Utah. And then there's another one of the Grand Canyon. Is titled "As Beautiful as Advertised," and everywhere I go and see beautiful scenery, I would see a McDonald's sign in everything I was doing. So I finally decided there ought to be one down in the canyon. Then I put a couple of other folks who have messed with our environment too to be a part of that as well. And then I have some sculptures. The one on the far right, I started here, and I think I had it here 1 year in the show. The others were just marble I got from here, but they were, well, the one in the middle was in the exhibition at one time. And then there's some more here. A couple of others. The one in the middle was at the exhibition 1 year, and the one on the right too. I've never brought the one on the left. I started it here, but I just never. It's so big and heavy. I just thought, well, I just don't want to bring it if I don't have to. But it's called torso leaping. Even though there's no legs, I wanted to make it look like he was jumping. So kind of hard to do. And the one in the middle is the ghost of Jacob Marley, and it's one of my favorite pieces that I've done. During COVID, one of my friends asked me, could I just see a picture of Jesus laughing? It was in the middle of things were just at its worst. It was in April 2020. And she said, I want you to paint me a picture of Jesus laughing. And I didn't want it to be I decided, I didn't want him just a big smile on his face. I wanted him to be busting a gut laughing at something. So, and so that's what I did. I hope I kind of got that kind of point of view that he is laughing there. So it's really hard. And this piece I also did at the festival the second year I was here, the Pietà, Mary holding crucified Jesus. Here we are the week before Easter, and so I think this piece has special meaning. It's at First Baptist Church in Rome now. But what I didn't anticipate when I carved it was the grain in the piece. And if you look at the face of Mary, it's almost like tears rolling down her face in it. And that was something I didn't plan. It just was there. And sometimes you're just glad to be a part of the process, even when you don't know. That piece is in First Baptist Church of Rome. They have a courtyard. It's in their courtyard. So that's what I've been working on. That's what being an artist has meant to me. So I'm going to kind of leave it to you. If you've got any questions you need to ask me about this or anything that I've got. Charles?
When you draw or paint or sculpt a face, it's not a historical person.
Right.
You use some kind of picture or anything.
I will look for models sometimes if I see somebody that I think would be a good model for things. Larry, yep, there you go. I see you back volunteering back there. I'll find somebody when I'm working on that. The one early on of the woman caught in adultery was a friend of mine, and so she was my model for that. And I'll find different people for different things. Even that laughing Jesus, I looked through a bunch of pictures of people really laughing to just try to see what does your face do when you're really laughing. How does your teeth go, and how does your face draw up, and how kind of squinches your eyes and things like that. So I'll do those things too, as well as find people. So. And I have to also say, the one art class, if you want, that I had in high school was Mr. Fraser's mechanical drawing class. It was the only respite I had in all my time at Sylacauga when I got to go to his class and do mechanical drawing. I still have my board, and it's all messed up and broken, but I still have it. I don't know if I still have some of the compasses somewhere. So, but Mr. Fraser was part of that. I see that in there. Whichever one I'm working in, whichever, I love them both. Right now, I am doing more sculpture, certainly more time. I think it takes more time to do the sculpture for one. So you just spend more time. What I usually say is I sculpt it by day and paint by night. And so I can get them both done. It's on the same day. But, if I have a big project in one or the other, that's what usually gets me excited. So I've got an idea for a painting project from the Old Testament story of Joseph and his brothers, and I've got it drawn. I just got to get started on it, and I want it to be big, but I'm thinking, well, where am I going to put this? Who's going to want this? But so that's something so when I have a big project and I'm excited about it, I like to do that, whatever it is. So. James, I see your name. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what I usually do, I do kind of what we'd call thumbnail kind of size sketches and put everything kind of, I don't even have border on it yet. I draw it and then I figure out what the border is after I do it. And then I draw it at a small scale with a pencil that's a very light lead so that you just, can see it, but it's not really heavy because if I need to make changes or erase, I'll have an easier time to do that. And then I'll draw it a little bit bigger maybe. And then after that, once I draw that second one kind of bigger where I can see a little bit more detail, and then I kind of get the border around it. Then if I was really going to draw it really big, then I will graph that drawing and make it into squares and then just duplicate my squares bigger, like the one I've got of Joseph and his brothers. I've drawn it. I drew it first on I drew on the back of a Sunday morning worship service. Got to do something during church, and then I drew it a little bit bigger on regular drawing paper. Now I've got it drawn 18 by 24, but I want it to be now just lots bigger than that. So I'll have to draw it one more time to get it the actual size that's going to be. Yeah.
Did you ever come to the process of sculpting?
Nobody who's ever sculpted has not come to an uh-oh moment. You reinvent what you're doing, Anybody want to testify back there? Yeah, sometimes it's, you just have to kind of move around it a little bit. If it breaks something off that you really needed, you may have to really redesign what it is that you're doing so that you can kind of fit it in. Or I've had some big time uh-ohs. If you've been into the room in here, the exhibition room, there's one there of Rebecca Luker that I did. It's a bust. It was originally the bust for Geneva Mercer, the sculpture that's out in the little foyer area where the television is. I was in the middle of it. I'd already finished her face and her hair, and I was working on her neck, and I hit the side, and I turned to look over here at something. I turned back, and the entire neck had broke. It had cracked completely all the way around. And I think what it was, the hair was, she had her hair in a bun, and the hair was so heavy, unlike people's hair, it was marble, so it was so heavy, it just shook it, and it just popped. And it just popped off. And so I had to start over. I had to get a whole nother piece of marble to do Geneva Mercer's sculpture. But it sat there for 2 years, and I thought, I've got to do something with this thing. And so I finally worked out this idea with Rebecca Luker's face in there. And so if you go into it, you can see where on the neck that it cracked, but if you were to try to feel it, you'd never know it. You'd never know it. It's just slick. You just run your hand right over it, you'd never know it. But you can see it a little bit there on certain parts of it. So uh-oh moments happen all the time, and sometimes we can fix them, sometimes we can glue them. That thing has metal rods through it, and I glued it on top of that and kind of redid the whole thing. It totally transformed. I had to basically cut the face off. I had to break her nose off and just had that kind of shell where the face was. So when I went back to do it again. So. But yes. Well, bronze is done. You can either use wax or you can use clay, and it's done in that form first, and then you have to build a mold for that, a plaster mold, and there are other ways. You can also have like a silicone kind of mold, and then the lost wax method, the wax is still in there in the mold, and when you pour this hot bronze, the wax just melts and boils up. So it's a more of a 3 or 4 step process. The easy thing about bronze is that you're working in clay or wax, you can add something back on. Anything breaks off, you can put it back on. You can always put it back, and so that original sculpture can be already there. Your hard part and your danger part is when you go to doing it in bronze. If you're doing this only one mold, and it's that lost wax method. If it messes up, then you've lost your whole piece. It's gone. So things like that. So, but it's easier to work with because unlike marble, you can add it back on anytime.
Where do you get your pieces of marble? And do you get a piece of marble and decide what you're going to do? Or do you decide what you're going to sculpt and then find a piece of marble to match it?
We got about 4 people in here who could answer that question. Robert could answer that, or what do y'all do? Y'all rather see it in it, or do you come prepared for something?
I look for rock that is evocative,
Yeah,
and whatever that rock suggests to me, I try to follow that,
right.
including the lines like the line down there.
Yeah, I was just lucky or fortunate. Yeah,
But I like the fine rock with unusual shape and unusual color.
yeah,
If I buy a block of stone, I've had them for 20 years. They don't suggest anything.
and then so one day, voila. Yeah. Anybody else back in on these other guys? Larry.
It's $3 a pound shipping stone.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. James, Rudy.
Earlier, we were speaking about cemetery and sculpture. Is that Sylacauga marble?
That's a good question that I don't know the answer to. I don't know. Anybody from Sylacauga who could answer that? Yeah. The sculpture pieces that are at the cemetery, at the Evergreen Cemetery, what are they? Is that from Sylacauga marble? Are they? That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're a long time. Okay, yeah. So I didn't know that. Yes.
I'm not trying to be political, but are there any female?
Oh yeah, there's a number of female who are there. Yeah, we got bunches of them. Linda Walden has been coming for years here. We've got a bunch of Pamela Payne, been coming for years. Jane Zaskovich used to be here all the time, but she moved, and so she's not here. Karen Terhune is here. I was trying to think who else. Ted probably know who they are better than I would. Who? Jennifer. It's just her first year, yeah. And so we yeah. That's true. That's right. We have. Elena, what was her? The one, if you go out there and you see it, it's a hand. It's a really great looking hand. It's got a lot of veins popping in it. And that's hers that she did as part of the festival here. And then there's another one that's it's more of a relief painting that the other sculptor did a few years before that. And yeah, so we have those. To go back to your question, Don, I sometimes come with an idea of what I want to do, and I'll sometimes have a little small clay version of it, so that if I find what I'm looking for marble-wise, that I'll do that. But I have changed my mind. The one last year was going to be something totally different. It ended up Moses and the baby, so I'm glad it changed. Rudy.
Sometimes I think carving should be called the grinding festival.
Sounds like it. Does.
Address that. Someone's have a grinder one end of the area or the other, but you were basically tapping with the chisel and a mallet. Could you address that?
Well, it was what I knew when I came here. The first time when I first came, I'd only used a hammer and chisels. That's all I'd ever used on any of the pieces that I'd done. So I wasn't even familiar with what was used. And that's why it was such an educational thing for me to come and see things like an angle grinder. I have an angle grinder, and I use it quite a bit, but most people don't see it. When people come from other places, they want to take a picture of me, I pull out the hammer because I know that's what they want to see me doing. They don't want to see me grind. Everybody's doing that, so I pull out the hammer and let them see that. But you know, I love the feel of having a hammer in the hand. I feel like I got more control, especially if I'm doing detail. So I always feel like that's very important towards the end of the process, and having that. And yeah, I enjoy the physicality of it, and so that's kind of part of I like. But I do like to have my angle grinder close by, because sometimes you just got to cut something off. And,
Tell the story of Moses and the baby and how you had to use the mirror. That
oh,
fascinated
yeah, I forgot
me.
about that. Yeah. Well, when I was doing the piece that's in there of Mary and Moses, it's not Mary. It's not
Yeah.
Mary. Where did I get that? It's Pharaoh's daughter, and she's looking down, and I'd already carved pretty much what her face looked like when I was working on the baby, and the baby is faced the other way, and so the daughter is leaning over, and her head's going to be here, so I have to cut out here, and I can cut a little bit here with just the chisels and angle grinder, but when I got down to this part, my chisel wouldn't fit down in there, and I had to use a carbide tool on my Dremel to get and cut around the chin and some of the cheek area. But then to do the detail, I didn't trust myself with that Dremel, so I wanted to carve it. And the only way I could do it was I stuck a mirror up on Mary's chin and carved it looking in the mirror so that I could get it where it was supposed to be, because it was the only way I could get to it that was that way. So, I had to think, all right, you're looking at that. It's got to go. You have to think which way it's supposed to go that way. But I had, I could get in there with a pencil and draw it. So I had the line there. So it was just a matter of, just taking my time, like cutting around the eyes and the nose and those kind of things. But I did use a mirror for that. I forgot about that.
The baby's face is beautiful.
I love the baby's face best of all. I do.
Most people may know the answer to this question, I don't like it. What is distinct about Sylacauga marble?
That's a good question. But besides just the whiteness, the pure whiteness that most of it is, it's the fine crystal grade that it is. And what that means is that you can put more detail into something. If you see a piece, I think Bill Cook's got a piece in there of Georgia marble of a horse, and you can see how big the crystals are in it, and that he had to kind of be more general in the detail. He couldn't be as specific. I've tried to carve flowers with some of the larger crystal marble from other places, and it just breaks off in ways you don't expect, or larger ways. So the really great thing is the fineness of the crystal level in that. Some of the other artists may have some other ideas on that as well, but that's one of the things that I really like about it. Well, what I've heard, I've not carved any Carrara. Anybody here carved any Carrara, Larry? James has. You have any difference, or you noticed? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Carrara marble is up on a mountain, and so there's a different kind of pressure on it than the marble here, which is down in a valley or down under the ground. So there's more pressure on the marble here by the earth around it. So I think it changes some of the consistency of it because of that as well. Robert.
So on the Greenberg side, first piece of Carrara carved, if I think about it, I think it was a lattice. It was £170 per cubic foot. 2.5, 3 cubic feet. And it was $3 a pound. So you figure that out, and it killed me to cut any of it away.
That's right. There goes $8 right there. Be grabbing it up and saving it, you
Oh,
know.
yeah. But I do that in case something happens to it, falls off, and some of the things, and then I go back.
Go back and work, fix it, yeah.
But I hate it.
I know the feeling. All right, I think thank y'all for letting me be here today and for your attention. And if you hadn't been out there, go out there and see what we're doing.
We want to thank all of you for coming, and Frank, you did a beautiful job, and I'm just delighted to know that you did go from meager beginnings to great success. So you got to be proud of that. Let me apologize for the confusion at the beginning, but we had lost a tour group that was supposed to be here early enough that they could see the film and then come in and participate in this. But they got here at the last minute, and they're all safe and sound, and they're wandering around here at the Baptist group. I realize that these people from the Baptist church that came to see you, that I assume Baptists speak to each other when they get outside their own communities, but I did not know for sure, but it was real nice of you all to wait and be patient. But again, Frank, you're more than just a pretty face. You, the bronze part I didn't know about. The painting is I know, and he does absolutely spiritual work with his paintings as well as the sculpture. Uh, Again, thank you all for coming, and we'll be here sculpting through noon on Saturday. But if you hadn't been across to the sales room, go over and take a look at that, and you can see the Moses that Frank is talking about. Robert Campbell has got his group here, and we appreciate you all joining us, and that's wonderful. If y'all stay with Robert, he's going to the observation point, and I gave him the combination to the lock so he can open it. Somehow or another, the devil caused it not to be open this morning, but we'll go take care of that. Again, thank you all for coming, and welcome to the Marble Festival, and make yourself at home.